Today, all across the country, in darkened rooms and dusty corners, there are pianos that play no more.
Well, I quit playing piano at about age 7. I never quit loving music. I never quit being fascinated by people that could play the piano.
Millions and millions of instruments that once sang with sounds from human fingers are long silent. This is about that silence, and about helping people who once sat down with hope and enthusiasm and songs in their heart to sit down once more, to come back to music, and to play the piano again. There are words from our childhood that bring back happy memories, like birthday party, or recess, or summer vacation. And then there are other less happy words. Lessons, scales, workbooks, and worst of all, recital.
One of my piano teachers, I remember, had a paddle on the wall, and it hung right above the piano. And she had a permission slip for parents to sign it, and I remember my mother would not sign that, but it still was intimidating to know that some of the students were being spanked and that I could be next.
These are the memories that have driven millions of people who love music away from the most popular musical instrument ever invented. Millions and millions of Americans were once piano students and quit, making the piano the leading instrument for quitters. Isn't it time we stopped and asked why?
It's not because they're quitters in any other aspect of their life.
The piano is relatively new to music history. Invented in the early 1700s, it became widespread by the end of the century and all but eclipsed the organ and harpsichord, which once dominated the keyboard scene. In that era, musical instruction was different. Music historians now call it the age of improvisation. Children were allowed to experiment, to play by ear, and were schooled in rules of harmony often before they were taught to sight read. This is how prodigies like Beethoven and Mozart learned.
In Mozart's day, there were no great masterpieces to read. So you sat at the piano, you learned how chords worked, major chords, minor chords, and as we look at Mozart's music as an early composer, as a young composer, his melodies are very chordal. He takes a minor chord and creates a melody out of it. He takes a major chord, creates a melody out of it. He does little twists and turns and embellishments, but it's all based on the basic chords, which he understood perfectly. Reisenauer talks about how his mother started him on basic harmony, where he could sit and play music at the piano, where he could make music right from his first lesson. The composers didn't have to use any set fingering. The composers could take the chords and do anything they wanted to. In fact, they could sit at the piano and enjoy themselves. They weren't reading somebody else's music. They sat there for 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours and enjoyed it the whole time because they were creating.
By the turn of the century, changes were overtaking the piano world. The invention of the metal frame ushered in sturdier instruments, able to project the emotion of powerful concert pianists. This was piano's golden age, when live performances by virtuoso pianists were huge events. These performers were the international superstars of their day. Meanwhile, mass production made the instrument affordable to the general public. Widespread popularity of the parlor piano created a huge business in printed sheet music and led to the introduction of mass-produced teaching systems, touted by large publishers and used by legions of piano instructors.
Publishers were selling an enormous quantity of music. Publishers were coming out with methods. Book 1, Book 2, Book 3, Book 4, and with each book, the soldiers fell on the battlefield.
Unlike the free-flowing instruction of the 19th century, these so-called modern methods were highly structured. Students were expected to learn to read music long before they learned to make music. The resulting boredom and frustration with lessons, combined with the humiliation of recital play, caused millions of young people, most of whom loved music, to turn their back on the piano forever.
I was 5 when I quit, I was 6 when I quit, I was 7 when I quit. You know, it was my mom that quit. I quit every day, but my mom didn't quit until I was about 7.
A quitter himself, Mark Almond has excelled in helping other piano quitters. In his 20 years as a performer and music teacher, he has developed a specialty in helping former students learn to love the piano again. His approach is not a gimmick. Indeed, it is modeled after the way the great masters first learned in the age of improvisation. In particular, Mark has worked with students to help them create musical sounds more quickly than students taught with traditional sight-reading methods. The results are often astounding.
In the first night that I went to see him, I came home being able to play 4 songs and with a formula for major and minor chords.
When he composes something that sounds, I've actually asked him, did you write that, or is that from, from one of your books? Because he's played such beautiful sounding things just by knowing about chords.
If people understand the rules of harmony, they can play the piano, not just overnight. I have seen people tear the keyboard up after a 30-minute lesson.
One big problem, I would have to say, with this whole method is that when they're running late for school and mom says, Brittany, go brush your teeth, and she has to always add, and don't touch the piano on your way by.
In this program, the simple system of transforming chords into music that Mark uses one-on-one with his students is condensed into short chapters. We recommend you watch a chapter and the chapter review, and then try out what you've learned on your piano before moving on to the next chapter. But feel free to set the pace you are comfortable with as you watch, experiment, and improvise. Welcome back to the piano.